Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you all for coming. My name is Katie Stewart and I'm the Professor of Marketing Management at West Shore Community College. This evening's event, Celtic Music and Journey with Brian McClure, is brought to you via Zoom by West Shore Community College's Humankind series. For those of you not familiar with the series, our goal is to explore the question, what does it mean to be human? In previous years, we've taken that question to places like Cuba, the Middle East, and Sub-Saharan Africa. This academic year, we're focused on the British Isles, which are made up of countries like Ireland, Scotland, England, and Wales. To get started, I'd like to introduce our guest, Brian McClure, who's streaming from Paw Paw, Michigan tonight. Brian is going to share a bit of his personal journey as a musician, his experiences in Ireland and Scotland, and his musical talent on the fiddle, guitar, and bodhran drum, playing some Celtic music. We'll also save some time at the end for any questions you might have for him, so feel free to enter them in the chat or the Q&A areas. Brian, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Oh, thank you, Katie. I have to say, this is quite the very, very honor to have this happen to me, to have you guys take your time to listen to my personal story, and feel really privileged to do that. So thank you very much for this platform to West Shore Community College. So I'm going to go through my story, and I want to provide a story and something of real context for anybody who's thinking about becoming a musician or is a musician and wanted to hear somebody else's story. I mean, this is my story and it is what it is. I don't really have any much opinions about other people's things that they do. So if you don't agree with some things I do, but I mean, this is my story and it is what it is. And I think all musicians are important, and I think everybody has their own unique story. And they're all worth listening to too. So, and I appreciate all musicians out there and everything that they do, because I think it's all important. And so I'm going to go chronologically from the birth of my musical career up into present, and just kind of give you an overview of where I've been. And it definitely has a big influence with the British Isles. So I just hope you guys enjoy it. And I have some pictures along the way to kind of help, guide us and give you a visual aid on what's going on. So I started on playing violin when I was 12 years old in 6th grade middle school in LaPorte, Indiana. And I remember the summer after 5th grade, my mom asking me, like, well, what instrument do you want to play? Like, I had to pick an instrument to play. And I was like, well, I don't know. But I apparently had the wisdom that in that time to say, well, I know I'm going to be playing this a long time, so what's a difficult instrument to play? And she said, well, the violin is difficult. So I was like, okay, so I put the violin down. And I started playing violin in a middle school orchestra, and I listened to my instructor, and I took my instrument home every day and practiced 30 minutes every day, and I progressed with it pretty well because I did that. At that time, I didn't know you just could fake it. I was like, well, I got to go practice my fiddle, I guess, my violin, I guess I should say. So I continued on with the violin in high school orchestra, and I was lucky enough to have that opportunity. And I had some private lessons early on, like when I was in middle school. One of my older brother's friends was also a violinist. He was the first chair in the high school orchestra, and I was lucky enough to have lessons with him. So that kind of drew me to want to get better and better, because I wanted to be like those guys, big influential time. But when I joined high school, I also got into choir because my older brother and sister were in choir, and also show choir. And if you have the first picture of, I was in show choir at the time. So I'm the little dude next to the guy in the black suit. I was like one of the smallest kids in my class. And it was a fun time. So I had my first experience with really engaging with the audience in show choir, as far as smiling at them, and we did dance routines and things like that. So next I went on to Purdue to study aviation. My dad was a pilot, and so I wanted to do something in aviation. I was interested in that, so I joined an aeronautical technology program there, which is a mechanics, like an aircraft mechanics program. But while I was at Purdue, the first year, my freshman year, I didn't know what to do with the violin. I pretty much didn't know anything about what was going on. But the pictures you see here, this is the Purdue Varsity Glee Club that I joined in college. And it was like an all-male, 60-male chorus, and we were pretty much groomed to the maximum to be the ambassadors for Purdue. And I did finally, this is my first time using the fiddle outside of like classical orchestra. And I was like really happy to do something with that, even though I still didn't really know what I was doing. I felt like I wasn't really like, I kind of know how to play this, and I feel like I was just kind of playing the part. But those were all some really good guys. That guy, I'm sitting down on the left, and the guy next to me is Grant Reif, and he comes back up in my story later on. He's a good guy. So at towards the end of college, this is Glee Club still, sorry. The Glee Club does a trip every 4 years, international trip, and I was lucky enough to go to England, Scotland, and Ireland with the Glee Club this time. My brother was in the Glee Club, and he went to China the 4 years prior, so I was lucky enough to be having to go to Ireland and Scotland. So that was really cool. This is me actually playing in front of them in a cathedral in St. Andrews, Scotland. So I always like that picture because I look really cool in it. So that's Edinburgh. So I was about 20 years old then. So that's just a picture of me in the city with the castle behind me. Let's see. Yeah, so that was a really informative time. There's us just exploring around. There's the Guinness Brewery in Dublin. But I was in the properties group like everybody in that group was part of a smaller group that had responsibilities, and I was in properties, which taught me how to set up the sound system in all of our shows. We had a professional setup, so I had to run chords professionally, flat on the ground with gaff tape and things like that. So that really taught me a lot. Later on, there was an Irish pub that was starting to open up, and this was like my big intro into Irish music. So I got this Facebook message from Katie Beardmore. Shout out to Katie. She's the one that really got me into playing Irish music. She comes from a really Irish family, and this was in Lafayette. And we formed a band called the McBeamans with Grant Freeman. He sang and played the bodhran, and she played the guitar, and I played fiddle. And that's when I was first starting to get into like the fiddle part. And I remember just thinking like, wow, this is actually a lot of fun. Like I memorize songs. I don't need sheet music, and I'm playing songs I actually enjoy, even though I haven't really heard them before, but I'm really getting into them for some reason. I guess it's in my blood, I'm half Irish. So, and then also we could play at a pub and you can drink at the same time. That didn't mind that either. So the McBeamans were a great like intro. We played a lot of traditional songs, and this brings me to my first song I'm going to play for you guys tonight. And that was one of the songs I first learned with them. It's an Irish rebel song called Black and Tans. So before I just completely fool you guys, I am using a loop pedal, which a loop pedal is something where I hit the button and it records what I'm playing, and then I hit it again and it repeats it back and forth. And this is currently how I figured out how to get like a full band sound in my shows. So because I'll get to it later on at the very end of how I came to becoming a solo artist at this point. So. street where the real drums do beat, and the loving English feet they walk all over us. And each and every night when we finally come home tight, we invite the neighbors outside with this chorus. Come on, you like a tan, come out and fight me like a man. Show your wife to me what medals down in Flanders. Somehow the IRA made you run like hell away from the green and lovely lanes of Chandra. Tell us how you slew those brave Arabs 2 by 2, like the Zulus they had spears and bows and arrows. How you bravely slew each one with your 16-pounder gun, and you frightened them tornadoes to their morrow. Come out, you black and tans, come out and fight me like a man. Show your whites and you and bells down in Flanders. Tell them how the IRA made you run like hell away from the green and lovely things of Chandra. Come let us hear you tell how you slammed the great Parnell, how you fought him well and truly persecuted. Where are the smears and cheers that you bravely let us hear when our heroes of 16 were executed? Come out, you black and tans, come out and fight me like a man. Show your wives how you won battles down in Flanders. Tell them how the IRA made you run like hell away from the green and lovely things of Chandra. The day is coming fast and the time is here at last, when each young man will be cast aside before us. And if you do me, sure my kids will sing Godspeed with a verse or two of Stephen B. and chorus. Come out, you black and tans, come out and fight me like a man. Show your wives how you won medals down in Flanders. Tell them how the IRA made you run like hell away from the green lovely things of Chandra. All right, there you go. So that's the McBeamans. That's what we were doing back in the day. Good times, good times. So yeah, I started learning a lot of those songs and started learning some fiddle tunes, and I'm still playing those same fiddle tunes today. So shortly after college, my degree, I graduated fine. So this is a big formative time for me. So the program at Purdue failed to prepare me for my mechanics license test. So if I don't have a license, you can't really get a job, like in the traditional sense. So it really bummed me out. I was probably at my lowest point because from that point, I was just on the up and up and up, learning, and then all of a sudden, boom, school was over. You have no way of getting what you were planning on doing, and I was just like, I'm lost. And but shortly after that, my grandfather died, and Jesus, man, I thought I could hold it together a little better. Jesus. So it's from my mom's family, which was like really close, and they had me play at the funeral, and so I'm gonna play this song for you. that helped me get it out of the system. So that song was called "Shokin Farewell," and so my family on that side really just appreciated me playing for that, and that was like one of the hardest things I ever did. So they did something crazy. They all pitched in and like put a card in my case and said, "Here's some money. Like you have to go to Ireland if you want to use it, and you can't come back until 3 months later." And at that time I was completely broke. I had no way of making money, other than working in a restaurant, and which was good. I had good money at a restaurant. I supported myself, but yeah, so I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to Ireland. So that's how this is like a funny story. So I had enough. I played with the plane tickets to like stretch it as far as I could because I had to buy a round trip ticket with it, and I think it was like I don't know if I want to say. All right, I'll say it anyway. It was like $750. Okay, and I found, and like that was a lot of money for me at the time. And I found a plane ticket for like $450, and so I had about $300 left over. And I had to survive 3 months in Ireland by myself in a foreign country, first time traveling abroad, doing any trip like this by myself. So here's my big plan. I land in Galway. I land in Shannon. I take a bus up to Galway, and I check into a hostel and figure it out from there. That's literally all I did. So the funny story happened. The first morning I woke up at the hostel. I was like the last one to leave the hostel because I didn't have a plan. And the good thing I did, because there was a French guy that was running it, and he walks in the door, and I was the only guy in this room with 30 beds in it. And he's like, "Are you the American that asked me for a job?" And I said, "No, but I can do it." So he's like, "All right, give me a second." He comes back 2 minutes later. He says, "All right, you're hired. Come with me." And so all I had to do was change bed sheets and mop the floors after everybody left. So I pretty much just flipped the beds. So as that was between about 10 o'clock and 12:30, I did that every day. And in exchange, I didn't get money, but I got a free place to sleep. So that was home base. I was like, all right, because I knew I couldn't support myself living in hotels for 3 months on $300. So I was like, all right, perfect. And then after that first day, this is me going out there and busking for the first time in Galway. This is like the shop streets. So these are all pedestrian streets in Galway. And so they call it busking, which was a new term for me at that time. So over in Ireland, they appreciate buskers differently than they do here in America. It's viewed as an art, and they appreciate the art, so they're willing to provide you something for it. I busked one time in Nashville, and I just felt like I was a hobo. So it was a really cool experience. So I started really learning how to perform at this stage with the fiddle, because you can't just sit there and just mediocrily just sit back and play the violin and expect anybody to give you anything. So I really had to put your heart into it and really perform. You gotta like grab their attention as they're walking by. So it's a different kind of performance than somebody who's going to a pub or a concert and you have their full attention automatically. This is somebody's on their way to go do something, and you're trying to grab them, by performing. So it really taught me a lot about how to perform really well. It really turned the corner from me being a classical musician to a performer. So, and then I met a lot of other buskers on the side, like this guy. I mean, I didn't meet him, but that's an example of what people were doing, because, I mean, you make a good money. I was making anywhere between 30 and 60 euros or so in about 2 hours' time. So after 2 hours, I was pretty tired of just standing there playing fiddle like really hard. And so everybody comes up with different ideas. And all the buskers that I met, they had this kind of a pact about them. And this is Ticoli, which is a pub on this like three-way intersection of all the pedestrian streets. And this was like the hangout. If you ever want to go have a beer with somebody and just have a conversation, you could probably find one of the buskers sitting there having a drink. And I learned a lot from them. One guy was an American in his mid 40s, and he did a puppet show. He did it for like 30 minutes, and like just raked in the dough. Like I was just like, wow, how do you do that? And those guys were just like, why would you want to get a job? Like a job was like a curse word, like one of the guys, he was an English guy that was hanging out with us, and he had this nice facial features and a really expressive face and kind of a bald head. And he didn't play any music, but all he did was, he's like, I'm gonna figure something out. And he wore a suit and painted his whole head blue and just stood there with a cigar box in front of him and just like looked at people and made money. All right. Anyways, so this is a hostel. So I've also met a lot of other fellow travelers. That's Galway Bay. It's a really pretty city. If you ever go to Ireland, I'd recommend Galway. It's such a fun town. It's got everything. I found out that's another band that I went and saw. It's called No Banjo. I don't know if that was out of protest. So they're all just guitars and bouzouki, octave mandolins, and fiddles. Actually, no fiddles. I think it was all just picking, and they were really good. I remember that. But so that's me in my hostel as I was about to leave. So you're getting a little ahead of me there, but I just have to say that like when I was working in the hostel, it was a really cool experience. Also, if anybody was thinking about traveling abroad, I was in my low 20s, and I met a lot of other people in their low 20s from across the world. Crazy amount of like Australians, New Zealanders, Japanese, and a lot of Americans too. But I had no idea that people in their low 20s before they start their careers are traveling the globe. And it was news to me, but it was also a lot of fun because when I was staying at that hostel, I had like a group of friends to go out, go have a good time with. And so I started developing kind of two groups, like the musicians and buskers that were kind of hardened by the streets, and then like all these other young people with bright eyes and that were just fun to hang out with, that were more my peers. So anyways, after a while, the hostel asked me to go fill in with a sister hostel out on Inishmore, which is part of an island chain off the west coast of Galway. And so I was like, okay, just go out. And like, they needed help for a week. So on my way out there, I was like, well, I'm not doing anything. I have enough money saved up, so I can go support myself for a week out there. I was like, that sounds like a cool experience. So this is in Doolin, which is like the town where the ferry is, where you catch the ferry to go out to the Aran Islands. So that was our little hostel we stayed at. Go to the next picture. One day, like some of the friends I've met some people there. As a Japanese guy, that's me with my hands up. We went on a bike ride to go see the Cliffs of Moher, and we found this castle on the way. So we're like, hey, let's stop, Anyway, so there's the Cliffs of Moher. So it's the largest cliff face in Europe, and it was, definitely put it on your bucket list if you haven't seen it. So that's pretty. And then back in Doolin is known for their like session musicians and things like that. And this is one of the bar nights, and that's me trying to figure out session music. So session music is the traditional type of music for Ireland. This is what they primarily play over there. It's kind of their cultural backbone. I don't know. I just made that up. I don't know. But I was trying to get into it, and it was just, it's pretty structured, like classical. But, a funny thing is about over there, like the fiddle players and other instrument players over there, they don't even know how to read music. Like here in America, it's the classical musicians. You get them off the page, they don't know what to play. And then over there, they don't even know how to read the music to begin with. So it's a big difference there. But they also don't like shift up and do anything really technical. They stay in first position on the violin, and all the notes are all single notes. You don't play two strings at the same time like you hear me doing earlier. So I remember this guy that I'm sitting next to. I remember one bit of advice he gave me was, because I bought a book of like sessions tunes, and he looked at me and he was like, well, you can read the book and figure out the notes, but you have to listen to it to really know how to play it, like to get the right inflections and things like that. And he was pretty serious about it. So they really take their music serious over there. Let's see. So this is on the ferry we went out to, on the way out to Aran Islands. This is Inish, if I can remember this. Inishmaan, which is like a really tiny island, and it's all covered in stone fences. And there's a little village on it. I think it's the next picture. So that's the population on this little island. I mean, it's just a drop in the ocean. And then I just kind of waited on that one while the next ferry came around. Then I finished my journey on the next ferry so I can see it. And this is the hostel I worked at for the week. It was cool. It was run by an Italian guy, and he was really cool. He really liked session music. So out in Ireland, on this island, I mean, you think Ireland is on island time. This place is time doesn't exist. I mean, it's just so laid back. There's, I think, a bar, a couple restaurants, and a hotel. But it's also where the Aran sweaters come from, like those intricate woven sweaters that you see, like an Irish people usually wear. This is the island that it came from, and they used to grow the sheep for that wool there, but I think that's gotten traded to the mainland, and then I think they still make the sweaters there though. So that was cool to see. I ended up finding a bike, like a little girl's bike that I was able to ride around the island to see the sights. So this is one of the cliff faces on the island. I thought that was really cool. You can go right up to the edge, and there's no barricade. So it was really wild. I think there's some more photos. I found this fort. There's an old ancient like ring fort there. All right, so after I got back to Galway, and this is my friend Joe I made playing on the streets, and just, we just met each other and started just hanging out. He was from California, actually, and I was able to rent a room from him. So that really helped. So I had a home base for like the last month I was in Ireland, and he had this crazy notion. He wanted to go hitchhiking through Ireland. How do I do it on time? Oh my God, it's already 7:30. So anyways, we hitchhiked through Ireland and had a great time. We were trying to get to Cahersiveen, where I have a fifth cousin there. And we went around the Ring of Kerry. I played for some Canadians in the back of a Jeep. It was a great time. It was just craziness. So let's see. So then the rest of my time in Ireland, I spent back at our place in Galway, and I had, like, the night before I came back to the States, I threw a big party for my friends that were musicians, and the friends that were the hostel friends. So it was bittersweet, but I was ready to come home at that point. And when I got back home, I went to I hooked back up with my buddy Sean, who I met at Purdue. I forgot to mention that. Sean, sorry. But we first started jamming a while back, and so we became friends in college. He was in the same program as I was in college. He's the guy standing behind me in the green jacket there. And we went to the Golden Ace Inn in Indianapolis, and that's the oldest Irish bar in Indianapolis. And we met this band, Trooper Thorn, and it was pretty killer rock and roll band. They they did stuff like Flogging Molly, Dropkick Murphys. We had a full drum kit and bass, and that was really formative for me and Sean at the time. Really liked those guys. And that band is when I first started jumping onto tables and chairs with my fiddle, with the wireless and things like that. So So that's me at a St. Patty's Day gig, big tent gig with them. And our biggest gig was a Irish festival in Indianapolis, and that was a really good time. We had a lot of people turn out for that. But unfortunately, the band ended up, it's pretty hard to keep. It was like a 7-piece band, and they ended up breaking up. But me and Sean stayed together, and we formed the Whiskey Runners, which is, I think, the next photo. So there's me and Sean, young and at the beginning, and we had a great time playing at the Nine Irish Brothers all the time, and there's us just jamming, and that was our show. He had a microphone, I had a microphone. I started singing again and playing and singing backup vocals. Let's see, and then shortly after this, my friend Grant Reif that I mentioned earlier from Glee Club, this is actually in Nashville. He came up to me and was like, "Hey, you want to go to Nashville?" And I was like, "That might be a cool experience." I mean, I was just playing music and working in a restaurant, so I was like, "Well, I can get a restaurant job down there." So I went down to Nashville and I tried it out, and I found some guys to jam with, and I got to play on Broadway. But it was a totally different scene than I was used to from playing Irish music. It was a little more strict and precise. Everything had to be right. That was my friend Carson Green. I was in Elizabethtown, Kentucky, so I had some really cool experiences in jamming with people. So that's another just gig that we had. So I had really just totally different musical experience completely. And actually, when I was in Nashville, I got my license because I passed a school. So I got my mechanic's license, I got a job in my career. So I was fine. My career finally took off, and I was a mechanic for a while. And then I got a job in an airline back in Indianapolis. And after I moved back to Indianapolis, like 3 weeks after I was there, I got a call from Les Miller, the guy in the middle. This is Highland Rain. And he had no idea I was even in Nashville. And just 3 weeks after I moved back, he calls me up and says, "Hey, you want to come sit in on a gig? They're looking for a new lead player." And I was like, "Yeah." And it just took off from there. And then we just had a great time. We played every Friday and Saturday. I still play with Sean. Hey, Sean. When Whiskey Runners were on Thursday nights, and Highland Rain got the Fridays and Saturdays, and it was a great time. This is like a really formative years in my music, just playing this consistently. And Pat on the guitar is just a wealth of knowledge. He's a rocker guy, and Les is a historian, and he's got this cool raspy voice, so it just makes it this hard, folk rock band. And he plays the bagpipes, obviously, and he's a historian. So a really cool balance of a band, and it just really functioned really well. What else I guess say? So Highland Rain also, Highland Rain. I can see comments every once in a while. So Highland Rain, every 2 years we went back to Scotland and Ireland, and so we did like a 10-day trip, and we got to bring our fans with us. And while we were back over in Scotland and Ireland, we could, what was I doing? I skipped the part. But anyways, I'll come back to going to Scotland and Ireland. Actually, we played a lot of festivals. I wanted to talk about the Scottish festivals that we played all across the country. We went to Mississippi, Fort Massac, Southern Illinois, Estes Park, Colorado, Billings, Montana, Long Island, New York, Maryland, Tennessee. I mean, it was just all over the place, and I just felt like a complete rock star. That's playing at a festival outside. We played in cold. We played in hot. We played in rainstorms. It was flooding. That's Fort Massac, one of our favorite festivals to play. That one's up there in Hobart, actually, or near Hobart, Highland, Indiana. And so it was great. I had lots of fun with that. You start flying through these pictures because I have a lot of pictures of Highland Rain. This me played in the bars. So I started getting up on the bars in my kilt. Yeah, we wore kilts, and this is when I just really started letting loose and really getting my chops down. And so while you're going through those songs, this is the song I always play when we got up on the bar, and it was a song where you get faster and faster and faster. So. That's how I do it. Now, that might not be the perfect technical song from a classical standpoint, but it got everybody up on their feet and dancing, and it was great. Let's see, how am I doing on time? 7:40. So you can just keep on going through those fiddle pictures of Highland Rain. This is when we're in Scotland, and I'm going to play a song by Highland Rain. And this might be a good use of time. So this is like an old Scottish whaling song that they turn into like rock and roll, and I'm going to try my best to imitate what they do. So here we go.
is a ship, my lads, for the Davy Straits we're bound. The key is all garnished with bonny lasses brown. Captain Thomas gives the order to sail the ocean wide, but the sun that never sets, my lads, nor darkness fills the sky. And then cheer up, my lads, let your hearts never fail, for the bonny ship, the Diamond, goes hunting for a whale. Along the quay at Peterhead, lassies standing round, rolled overboard without them, and salters running down. So weep, my bonny wee lass, though you be left behind, for the rose will grow on Greenland's ice before we change our mind. And let's cheer up, my lads, and let your hearts never fail, for the bonny ship, the Diamond, goes hunting for a whale.
Alright. That was about half the song, so I'm kind of saving some time here. So after that, the pandemic hit. It was really devastating for the band right before St. Patty's Day, and then shortly after that, my wife who I met playing in Highland Rain, by the way, at a winery down in Madison, Indiana, the cutest little town ever. And we hit it off, and she came to one of my shows, and now we're married. And so I helped her, kind of move her along in her career, and she got a job up here in Michigan. So we actually moved to Michigan during the pandemic about 8 months ago, and that's why I had to separate from Highland Rain. And luckily enough, they found another fiddle player. So definitely go check them out if you got a chance. Sarah's really awesome, and they're still playing. And look up all their music videos on YouTube too. So since I moved away, I didn't have a band anymore. I found a way to do my own show and kind of tried something totally different. I haven't really seen anybody else do Celtic music with a loop pedal like this, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. I'm really enjoying it and meeting new people up here in Michigan and really love it. So anyways, let's see, how am I doing on time? So that brings us up to modern times. So thank you for letting me talk about myself, and that was a little insight into my, personal world. So, what do you think, Katie? Should I do another song, or you want to do Q&A, or?
I'm sorry, I lost you for just a moment. I missed what you said.
Oh, I just want to. Should I do another song, or should we just start Q&A, or because it's 1:45?
Do you want to do one more song and then we'll jump right into Q&A?
Okay. All right. Sounds good. All right. Oh, that's a bad note. Yeah, one word of advice for musicians that I've figured out, it's okay to go out and just mess up, just get out there and perform. Like, everybody is just so scared of the stage, but the stage is the absolute best place to practice. That's just a little tidbit for musicians out there. I didn't get where I'm at by just staying at home and scared to play out. I went out and played even though I didn't know what I was doing. And that really helped me actually start figuring out how to play by ear. And I got that really engaged with the Highland Rain. And so anyways. But I'm enjoying being able to sing now because I was in the glee club and choir and show choir, and so I'm having fun, doing all that. So, all right, this is a good old Irish song. Well, not old, but it's by the High Kings. Well, you're walking through a city street, you could be in Peru, and you hear a distant calling, and you know it's meant for you. Then you drop what you were doing, you join the merry mob, and before you know just where you are, you're in an Irish pub. They got one in Halloween, they got one in Moscow too. I got four of them in Sydney and a couple in Kathmandu. So whether you sing or pull a pint, you'll always have a job, cause wherever you go around the world, you find an Irish pub. Now the design is fairly simple, it usually works the same. You raise her hot and scoring in the Ireland-England game, and you know you're in an Irish pub the minute you're in the door. For a couple of boys of Bodhran will be murdering Christy Moore. They got one in Honolulu, they got one in Moscow too. They got four of them in Sydney and a couple in Kathmandu. So whether you sing or pull a pint, you'll always have a job, cause wherever you go around the world, you find an Irish pub. Now the owner is Norwegian, the manager comes from Cork, and the lad that's holding up the bars is only Aegis work. He was born and bred in Bolton, his mom is from Kildare, and he's going to make his fortune soon and move to County Clare. They got one in Honolulu, they got one in Moscow too. They got four of them in Sydney and a couple in Kathmandu. So whether you sing or pull a pint, you'll always have a job, cause wherever you go around the world, you find an Irish pub. It's time for me to go, I have to catch me train. So leave you sitting at the bar and face the wind and rain, for I'll have that pint you owe me. I'm not gone on the dry, don't meet this wicked Frankfurt in the fields of Athenry. They got one in Honolulu, they got one in Moscow too. They got four of them in Sydney and a couple in Kathmandu. So whether you sing or pull a pint, you'll always have a job, cause wherever you go around the world, you find an Irish pub. They got one in Honolulu, they got one in Moscow too. They got four of them in Sydney and a couple in Kathmandu. So whether you sing or pull a pint, you'll always have a job, cause wherever you go around the world, you find an Irish pub. Cause wherever you go around the world, you find an Irish pub.
That was great, Brian.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and open it up for questions. I did see one question come through earlier, and they wanted to know what you thought your high school orchestra teacher would think about the fact that you didn't get to play music you like until college.
Oh, he in a high school orchestra, you have to understand that there was 60 violins, and I don't even know how many violas, cellos, and bass players. I mean, what other music do you play? Like, oh, we're gonna play some Pink Floyd, like it doesn't happen. I mean, the classical music is just set up for that kind of environment, And so the other type of music that you want to get into, if you don't want to play classical, you have to find smaller groups of people, really. So, I actually, my orchestra teacher, his name was Mr. Collins. He's a really good guy who I found out he's retiring now, but he was wanting me to come and do a presentation at the high school, and I never found time to do it, and I really feel bad about it, actually. So
now I've heard you mention the violin and the fiddle.
Mm-hmm.
Is it truly the same thing, or is there something different?
Essentially, the only difference is attitude, the genre you're playing. There's fiddles, because a fiddle, in the sense of like playing Cajun and traditional like American music, is they play a lot of two strings at the same time, and you can see a fiddle might have a more of a flattened bridge. So this is the bridge here. They'll flatten it because it makes a curve, and that makes it easier to play one string at the same time. But when they flatten it, it makes it easy to just be constantly playing two strings at the same time. I don't know, probably while drinking moonshine or something. I
don't know. One question. What Celtic song are you tired of playing? And which song is your favorite?
Ooh. It's funny. You would think that I would get sick of playing like Celtic music, because I didn't grow up listening to Celtic music. I didn't even know what it was, really. I mean, I remember playing with Legos, listening to Metallica and Megadeth. So I mean, it definitely wasn't up my genre at the time. But now that I perform it, they're just these songs. A lot of them are just kind of. A lot of them are really old. They've stood the test of time, and it's kind of an interesting genre or niche of music where it's not rock and roll, it's not country, it's like nothing's really cliche. It's like these old stories, and they're all really kind of unique. And so I can't really pinpoint a song that I really get sick of playing, Maybe there was a couple in Highland Rain, maybe. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding, guys.
A favorite, though?
My favorite, that's another toughie. Shokin Farewell, that song I played for my grandfather. That's always been one of my big staple songs that I like to play. I'm still pretty new to the guitar to really have a favorite on the guitar. But I like playing, that Irish pub song. No, I like that one a lot. So.
Another question came in asking about the drum. So the name of the drum, they said it's really unusual, and they love the sound.
Yeah, so the bodhran is a really cool drum. YouTube it, bodhran, I think, or it's bodrhan. I think it's bodhran. But look up on YouTube the professional bodhran players. I mean, this sounds like a full drum kit. So it's a really cool drum, very versatile. This has a goat skin on it. You can also get in a synthetic skin. But a quick lowdown of the drum is one difference is you put your palm on the back of the skin, And I'm not a professional bodhran player. I've never even taken a lesson. So I just learned this from just figuring it out. So you can push on the back of the drum head and it makes the drum sound louder. So you can play it up like this. I think I can bring my hand down. And then the stick also has two sides. There's different kinds of sticks you can get, but you can play a triplet with it. So I can hit it down with it, but then come back and hit this, and it is able to get a triplet going, like a triplet. So that fits with like jigs, Irish jigs, which are 6/8 time. So those are like the triplets: 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Anyway, so does that answer your question? And these come in all different sizes and shapes too. I played with a guy that had a gigantic one, and it was only like this deep. And then I've also played with ones that are only like 10 inches wide, but then they're like a foot deep.
Wow.
Yeah.
What is your favorite piece of techie music equipment that you use?
Oh, man, I've bought a lot of equipment lately to get this show going, and the wireless on my fiddle, I'd say, is probably one of my favorite. And I got that back when with the Whiskey Runners with Sean, and it's just what I like about it is before I had a cord that had to come down to like a battery pack on my belt, but this one is the batteries are all in here, so it's all self-contained in that, so I can just twirl it around, I can just throw it around, and it's fine. And also the pickup is an embedded bridge pickup. If anybody wants to electrify their violin, that took me a while to figure that out. This is an LR Baggs embedded pickup in a bridge. So you have to have the bridge. You have to take it to a luthier to have it cut for your violin and everything. But it's worth it, So.
I'm trying to. There are a lot of comments.
I don't doubt it. Shut up and play your fiddle, probably.
There might have been a couple of those. I hope you never get tired of playing Irish Washerwoman. Love your energy when you're playing.
Oh, thanks. I love that song. I love the energy of that song. I love getting people getting going and everything. So, I mean, I haven't found another song like it to really do the same thing. So,
as far as your visit to Ireland and Scotland, when you passed through the two different countries, what was the biggest difference? I mean, obviously the language, but what was another difference that maybe you'd noticed?
Between Ireland and Scotland?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, that's a toughie. I would say, it depends on what side of the country you're in. So if you're in Dublin, Ireland, it's just, other than the accents, you kind of just feel like you're in a big city, as far as the culture goes. I mean, the Guinness is really a lot better over there, in my opinion. It's made differently, it has a different recipe. And also the same thing goes with Scotland. If you get closer to the big cities, that kind of like little intricacies of the culture kind of fade away a little bit. So, but if you go out in the Ireland, like when I was out in the Aran Islands, I mean, time stopped and I could hear older folks sitting at the bar speaking in Gaelic, having a normal conversation. I was like, whoa, that sounds weird. But as far as like big differences for like the country folk, there is a difference. It's kind of hard to explain, like other than the accents. just the way they kind of carry themselves. I would say like the Scottish are a little bit more brash, and the Irish are a little more soft spoken, but we're both equally witty as hell, and so. Yeah, a lot of people think they're really nice, but a lot of times they're giving you a backhanded compliment with a smile on their face.
If someone were to, if you had to pick between Ireland or Scotland to visit, which would you pick?
The visit? Like my next visit? Well, I'd have to say I've just been to Scotland 3 times in a row, and I haven't been back to Ireland yet. And my wife still hasn't gone to Ireland, so we probably go to Ireland next. But we like them both. We really want to go hiking up in Glencoe in the Highlands of Scotland, and same thing in Ireland. We go hiking and camping out there. So.
I think we've covered all of the questions.
Yeah. Well, if anybody has any questions that you want to shoot me, I'm also, you can find me on Facebook, Brian McClure Music on Facebook, and you can feel free to shoot me a message. I mean, I'm open to giving lessons. I don't have much experience with it, but if you find a good teacher, it's hard to find, I think. I've still got to find a good teacher for myself to progress me along in what I'm doing, because I feel like I'm just kind of unique on what I'm doing. Other than the only path I could find for me is going more traditional. I was thinking about doing more with a violin and like old-timey American session music, which is really similar to Irish session music. It's pretty much the same thing, except the culture twisted it a little bit here in America. So same format and everything. So I have a long way to go if I want to learn more session music, but I just really love just playing by ear and playing from the heart. And I mean, all that structured things, it's good and everything, but I like being free flowing with the fiddle.
So in any of the songs that you play, have you learned any in Gaelic?
No, but I have one on my list I want to learn, and it's really yeah. So yeah, it's on my list of things to do. Yeah, I think it'd be cool.
Well, great. Well, Brian, thank you so much for everything, for sharing your journey, sharing your time in Ireland and Scotland, and all of the songs. They were wonderful. They were great.
Yeah, thank you. How about one more song for the road, huh?
Perfect.
All right. All right. Let's see. Road. We're all sitting at home, aren't we? All right. All right. I already messed it up. There you go. See? Musicians mess up all the time, and there's nothing wrong with it. All right. Farfin Kerry Mountains, I met with Captain Farrell and his money.
was counting. First produced my pistol, then produced my rapier, saying, stand and deliver, for I am a bold deceiver. My sharing, whack for the daddy-o, whack for the daddy-o, there's whiskey in the jar. I counted out his money, and it made a pretty penny. I put it in my pocket and I took it home to Jenny. She sighed and she swore that she never would deceive me, but the devil take the women, for they never can be easy. My sherry never whack for the daddy-o, whack for the daddy-o, there's whiskey in the jar. Chamber all before to take a slumber. I dreamt of golden jewels, and for sure it was no wonder. Jenny took my charges and she filled them up with water, and sent for Captain Farrell to be ready for the slaughter. My sherry never do, whack for the daddy-o, whack for the daddy-o, there's whiskey in the jar. It was early in the morning as I rose up for travel. The guards were all around me, and likewise Captain Farrell. First produced my pistol, for she stole away me rapier, but I couldn't shoot the water, so a prisoner I was taken. My sherry whack for the daddy-o, whack for the daddy-o, there's whiskey in the jar. Tis me brother in the army, if I can find a station down in Cork or in Killarney. If you'll go with me, we'll go roving through Kilkenny, and I'm sure you'll treat me better than me on a sporting shanty. My sherry never whack for the daddy-o, whack for the daddy-o, there's whiskey in the jar. And some men take delight in the drinking and the roving, and others take delight in the gambling and the smoking, but I take delight in the juice of the barley, and courting pretty girls in the morning bright and early. My sherry never whack for the daddy-o, whack for the daddy-o, there's whiskey in the jar.
Very nice, Brian.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks for tuning in.
Yes, thank you everybody for coming along. Thank you, Brian, for sharing your talent again and your story and all of the Celtic songs. It was wonderful.
Yeah, thanks. I hope you guys got something out of it. So.
Absolutely. And audience, you'll get an email with a survey. So do please take just a quick moment to fill that out. Or if you're handy dandy right now and you have your cell phone, you can scan that QR code that's up in the screen, and you could do that right now. So thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful evening.
Yeah, sláinte, everybody. Sláinte. All right.